My name is Joni Kamiya. I'm a mom, a wife, and a farm advocate. And I'm here in Laie, Hawaii, on the north shore of Oahu at my dad's farm, Kamiya Papaya. And I want to tell our story. So 3 years ago on Civil Beat, I noticed a lot of articles about the GMO issue happening. And me being a daughter of a papaya farmer, I just kind of saw it and thought, it'll pass. There's nothing too bad about it, so I'll let it pass. But it continued, the misinformation continued about the GMO issue early on. And I decided that I'm going to take a leap, that I'm going to speak up, because I had the unique knowledge of working in the early cross protection research on the papaya. And so I started commenting on there. And little did I know that that commenting would put me at the bottom of so much hate that I would just get dogpiled on media sources, especially Civil Beat. But, I said the truth has to come out. The truth about the farm, the truth about our farm and how it was saved by it needs to come out. And I was determined to really have our side heard. Even though I was the only one on there and there was like 50 commenters telling me that I work for Monsanto, I must be a Monsanto shill. And I'm thinking, Monsanto? I'm not Monsanto, I'm just a papaya farmer. But I kept at it. And Hawaii being the small community that it is, people were reading these articles, including friends of our family who would call my sister and tell her, hey, Joan is commenting online. You better tell her to stop because, it's pretty ugly and you guys are going to be attacked. Your farm is going to be targeted. And so my parents called me up, Joan, you better stop commenting on there. You're going to get us attacked. Our farm is going to be a target. And I said, target? We already are a target. It doesn't matter. I said, I'm going to go on there and I'm going to say the truth, about the farm. And, my mom was very worried that we might be attacked or something may happen. So I said, okay, fine. I won't comment. So I told nobody in my family that I changed my name online. I took my husband's last name and I called myself Joni Rose. And I just continued to comment that way for some time. And luckily, other people started to get brave enough to comment. And I started to see more balance in what was happening online. And through that, I was able to find allies that I wasn't alone. I really felt alone in the world in Hawaii. I thought, God, how can it be that everybody is anti-GMO? Papaya has been around for nearly 20 years. How can we be anti-GMO? And that whole commenting, as minor as it seemed, as trivial as it seemed, really changed my whole outlook on everything what's happening in Hawaii. And I've realized that as little as we are in Hawaii, we are a part of the global world. And what's happening in Hawaii is trickling elsewhere where we don't even know people, but it's happening. I had the fortunate ability to go to Cornell to be trained for the Alliance for Science. And as one of the lecturers there, I met a fellow by the name of Daniel Otunge, who's from Africa. And he gave us a slideshow about why Africa needs GMOs. And he presented all the reasons why, they were having problems with cassava, their main crops, problems with corn, problems with so many of their bananas are being affected. And at the end of his slideshow, he shows me a picture of the Hawaii anti-GMO movement. And it showed pictures of all the activists and even some of the politicians who are anti-GMO. And he said, what's happening in the world is affecting our ability to get technology. And when I looked at his little computer graphic, it shocked me that an African is hearing what's happening in Hawaii. And I asked him afterwards, I said, Daniel, how did you get that? He goes, I was looking up anti-GMO and that was one of the main pictures that came up. And I said, that's the Hawaii people that's on there. Oh my God. I felt so ashamed and so hurt because when I realized how our activism here that was really based on a lot of misinformation, a lot of people not understanding how Google works, not understanding the science, and not listening to scientists, we were blocking developing countries from having the basic right to food. And it really, really got me mad. And I thought, we have food, we have shelter, we have clean water, we have everything. And here we are complaining about biotechnology, a technology that has helped us grow Hawaii, help maintain our agricultural lands here. And now we're saying we don't want it because of this activism. And yet that activism, they tell us here, well, just label it. It's just the right to know. Label GMOs, that's all we want. But then those same activists go across the world to Africa, to Bangladesh, to Indonesia, and they tell them, you can't have GMOs because you know what? Your children will be infertile, you will have no babies, you will have birth defects. They tell them a completely different story than what we're told here. And I thought, that is dishonest and cruel. We have such a good life here, and yet we are using this movement to affect everybody else around the world. All in the name for nature's rights, protecting nature, and we're causing suffering. And that is disturbing to me, that, there are people who our activism is harming their livelihoods. And more so I felt, I'm going to keep speaking up. I'm going to keep putting on facts. I'm going to look for the truth. I'm going to dig deeper into what this movement is about and where it's going. And what I did discover is that message that we farmers think that is wonderful, we feed the world, it doesn't resonate with the public. It doesn't. Even though there's 975 million people who are food insecure, we're not one of them. So it doesn't bother us. And who cares about getting better crops, doing it better, using less energy? It doesn't matter to us because we have it so well. And how can we be the ones to be so selfish to deny other people technology? As we've seen, the papaya has helped my dad keep farming. If it wasn't for biotechnology, this whole farm would be non-existent, as well as all the other farmers on the Big Island who suffered multiple crop losses and multiple problems and kept trying to farm but couldn't. The technology helped them. And we're no Monsanto, we're no corporation, we're just a small family farmer. We're not wealthy, we're not making millions off of people, we're not poisoning people, but that's the narrative. And my voice that I hope to be heard is that we are people, we are regular people. I'm just a local person, I live in a regular house, Kaneohe, I work a day job, but I don't like misinformation, because as much as the GMO issue might just be GMOs, in Hawaii, it's much greater than that. We are doing things that could tie our hands for the future. The ohia tree is being affected and it's dying. What is going to save that? Unicorn dust and horns with poop and these magical permaculture things, that's not going to solve the problem. I've had people tell me online that the papaya ring spot virus, that could have been solved by just piling dirt on your roots and making it heat up. I'm thinking, first of all, the disease is not in the roots. The disease comes from bugs biting the leaves. That is not factual. And if you don't provide a solution, then we have nothing. It's same thing like the TMT. We're protecting the environment. But at the same time, the Big Island is the poorest community, and Hawaii is trying to foster more high-tech jobs, more innovation for the future. What is keeping a mountain sacred going to do for our future? Can we come to an accord? Can we come to common ground? But what I've learned so far with these activists is it's not about common ground. It's about my way or no way. And if you don't listen, if you don't follow them all the way, then you will be banned from their page. You will have no conversation. There's no talking to them. There's no community. And one thing I have to laugh about is when the whole anti-TMT movement came up, right after the GMO movement had died down, they all built a beautiful rock altar. Lots of stones, different shapes, different sizes. People lined up along university gathering rocks from the quarry to build this ahu. I thought, wow, that's great. That's community. People putting their hands together to work together to build something beautiful. And the ahu is not just big rocks. It's tons of different rocks built by many different hands touching it, building a beautiful structure for everyone to appreciate. And that's what we need in Hawaii. We need community building. We don't need people picking off all the big rocks from the ahu and say, that's mine and you can't have it. We need people of all different backgrounds, different training, different beliefs working together, because that's how we build that beautiful ahu. I'm just dumbfounded with what's happening here. I'm just totally shocked that our ability to foster community, to foster relationships and learn from each other has been blocked. That if you're not with us pesticide people, then you're pro-pesticide. And there's no understanding why don't you come to my farm, come learn about why I need pesticides, or why don't you come to the astronomy community and come learn about what's there and see what's happening. Why don't you come to the water issue on Maui and learn about the truth with the water. It's not about this big corporate conspiracy. That's a great story, corporate conspiracies, but I think we better think about it before we actually believe it, because the activists are good at telling a narrative, but that's just a narrative. That's not the fact. And we have to look at the whole system and how all of our actions affect each other. And we have to have communication. We have to have some give and take, and let's build that community again. Let's have a civil conversation with each other about how we're going to solve real problems in Hawaii, and how can we make it better for my kids. It's not about me. I don't want to be famous. I've already had my mug shots and death threats, my websites made about me and all kinds of stories, and I find it on Google. I see the hateful stuff. They say whatevers, but what is that going to do for our future keiki? What is it going to do for the kids? Well, how is it going to make it better for our kupuna so that we can be home to take care of them? How can we build our community? And that's why I speak up. That's why I want to be heard. It's not me. It's not a famous me. It's how can we make Hawaii better? How can we make our lives better? And that's my whole goal. In Hawaii, there's so much talk about aloha aina, malama the aina, caring for the land and the waters and the people. It's great, but we're missing a key component, which is where do people fit into it? If we become a state of blocking everything, blocking GMO technology, blocking a telescope, blocking water, it's going to affect the whole community, even though it seems not. It's the corporations we're trying to get after. It's going to block everybody. If you have no farms in agriculture, you have no businesses like fertilizer, tractor companies, construction companies. They're all going to be affected. The caterers who cater to these companies, they're going to be affected. The people who work there are going to be affected. Same thing like the fishing. People are trying to stop fishing, saying we need to close off the ocean so that we can protect the land, but we need to have evidence as to why we need to do that. If we stop the fishermen from fishing in these areas, and really what's the evidence for it? What's going to be the best practice? If it's just for a feel good, oh, we want this monument, that's great and dandy, but remember, you take away the fishermen, there's a trickle-down effect. There's going to be no local fish, no local poke, no fish markets. All those other entities will be affected, and we need to think about what are we going to give if we do that? We need to have some kind of alternative. And that's where I have a problem with this anti-movement, this ole everything, ole this. It's like a tantrum. It's like, no, I'm not going to do this. No, I'm not going to do that. But then when I asked him, I said, so what's your alternative? Nothing. So I think, well, if we don't do something, that means we have nothing. If we have nothing, then how can anything get better? And it won't. And that's where I have a problem. If you're going to propose a solution, you better give an alternative if you're not going to be supportive of it. And taking away things, we don't need to. Hawaii is about aloha, working together, doing things together as a community. Not, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. But you know, as you look into the movement who's funding this aole everything, it's mainland people. You know, it's wealthy people that want to keep their paradise away from the local people. The local people is the Japanese, the Chinese, the Filipino, the Portuguese. We're all a rainbow. But, you know, if you come from wealthy money and you see Hawaii, this is my paradise, and there should be no fishing, there should be no farming, there should be no anything. We just want the land, the paradise. What's the people going to do? Where is that going to leave the people? Where is that going to leave my children when they graduate from college? They're going to have nothing. You know, I experienced that when I went away for school. I couldn't go into agriculture. There was no farm practically. The virus was devastating everything. My dad said, Joan, don't even go into farming. We don't even know if it's going to be here. So I thought, I better do something else. So I decided to work with old folks. I'm an occupational therapist. And if we didn't have this technology, my kids would never know the farm. My brother would not have a job. My brother would not have the opportunity to be working with my dad and learning his lessons that he learned from his grandpa. And we talk about sustainability. What's going to sustain us if we don't have tools available? What's going to sustain our keiki when no one wants to invest in Hawaii? No one wants to look into the future and plan for it. Instead of just sitting there saying, no, 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 no. Are they going to give us something? Are they going to say how they can make Hawaii's future better? No, because they're going to say no. No, 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 no. And that's not cool with me. That is totally not cool with me. Because my children deserve a better Hawaii. And the only way we can have a better Hawaii is by speaking for the future. Land is like thousands of dollars per month. Thousands. You know, last year it was like the bill they sent into the legislature was blank. There was no parameters on, okay, if you use this kind of pesticide of this amount, then you're going to be subject to this type of law, and you know, you're going to have a buffer zone. And the talk was that they were asking for a 1 mile buffer zone. 1 mile. The school that my dad farms by has been by here for over 40 years. And if you took 1 mile, there's no agriculture. There's nothing. And you're tying the hands of farmers from protecting their crops. Every day there's new bugs coming into Hawaii. And we don't know how these bugs are going to affect our crops. And the pesticide buffer zone laws that were trying to be passed in the legislature were blank. There's no parameters. We stood to lose 19 acres of our farm. So we would have had to pay for 19 acres of land at several thousand per month to farm. And here we're talking about grow local food, have local food, help your farmer, and we're trying to pass a law to limit them? Something's wrong there. That makes no sense. We can't sell food that's damaged. We can't sell damaged crops. We have to have the inputs to protect our crops. The pesticides is really scary. The reality is it's crop protection products. It protects our crops so that we can sell it and that it will be edible. And people will buy it in the market. No one's going to want a scarred up papaya in the market. Even though papaya is one of the cheapest produce in the market for $1.69 a pound, nobody wants an ugly papaya. You want a good papaya. And us farmers, we don't get paid a whole lot on these papayas. Some of the Big Island farmers get paid a mere 30 cents a pound. So you have a huge bin of papaya worth $100, but you spent 3 hours farming on it? How much are we going to tie the hands of our farmers? How much are we going to make it harder for them? If we want to be self-sustaining, we've got to support those who are sustaining us already. Because they are the ones who's gone through the ropes, who knows what it takes to farm, and they have the tools and the know-how to do it. And that's what we need to rely on. Not some Google scholar who read something about farming and think they know. You need a person like my dad and my brother who can tell you exactly what to do when they see a bug. Proof is 40 years of papayas. They must be doing something right. And customers living into their 90s still buying papayas every week at the market. That's a lot of evidence right there to prove that farmers are doing the right thing. And we've got to restore our faith in the farmers and those who support us. And the misinformation out there, it's easy to spout bullshit. Easy. But it's hard to contradict it. Hard to counter it. This is my dad, Kenneth Kamiya. And this is my brother, Michael Kamiya. They're second and third generation farmers.
Farming is in Hawaii is fairly rough business. You know, we farmers started off in Kaneohe. Kaneohe got developed. We moved to Waikane, Waihole. Waihole, Waikane got into the battles. We moved to Laie, and now we're facing the buildings here. And so, you know, farming life is on the move, and it's because we don't have a permanent home. It's all leased land. So farming is a tough business in Hawaii, but you know, it's a good business. It's enjoyable, rewarding. So we stick with it.
I'm in charge of the sales, the accounting, the human resources, but also help with the farm production and the management of the farm. We do everything from making seedlings to planting to plowing and prepping all the fields. We do everything from harvesting it twice a week, and then from there we actually deliver it within 24 hours to all our stores and locations that sell our papaya, and then we start it all over again for the next week.
Okay, when I first started farming back in the early 70s, we had a good papaya variety. It was the University of Hawaii, and it was called the Line 77, and we went with that. However, the Line 77 was a large fruit, and at that time the market required small fruit. So we worked on the papaya and did our own selection and made it a little smaller, and it eventually became known as a Kamiya line. And then we were successful early on in that. However, in the late 70s and the early 80s, papaya ring spot virus started to show up. And again, the original papayas had no resistance to this virus, and so it spread. And by the time the 90s came around, we were almost completely wiped out with the papaya ring spot virus. But it was fortunate that there were some researchers, Dr. Gonzalez at Cornell, and Dr. Maureen Fitch, and Dr. Ferreira, Dr. Mansard at the University of Hawaii. We've been working on genetically modifying the papayas to resist the virus. So early on we started off with first what we call cross protection, infecting our regular plants with the mild strain virus. That worked. However, it's still infected by a virus, so the plants didn't produce at 100%. So researchers, being what they are, said, hey, let's improve this, and why use a live virus? And then they started to do this biotechnology, GMO. And so instead of using the mild virus, they just used the coat protein gene from these viruses and inserted that, and that rendered the papaya resistant. However, you know, we had a complication there. The only problem that the only papaya that took this GMO was the red papaya that's normally grown on Kauai. And the papaya market here in Honolulu required the yellow, and the export market required yellow papaya. They don't want red papaya. So we had a problem, and so the University of Hawaii jumped on the wagon again, and they said, okay, we'll make some crosses. And they crossed this red papaya with the old line Kapoho papaya, the standby that everybody used to, and that became known as the rainbow. Yeah? University of Hawaii, rainbows. So that became the rainbow. We on Oahu, on the other hand, we cannot grow the rainbow because of not demographic, but weather and so forth, that it doesn't grow well here. So we asked the university and the USDA, hey, how about getting another cross for us? And so Dr. Maureen Fitch made a cross with our old line papaya with the rainbow. And with that, you see what we have here, the Laie Gold. And again, this is a premium papaya in Hawaii, the best tasting papaya. So the GMO really saved us. If without the GMO, no papayas today. Like we say, GMO was the thing, but now it's pesticide. And so pesticide is, in Hawaii, this is paradise. Everybody loves it, including the bugs and the disease and everything else. And plus, because we have so much interaction, we have so many invasive species. So we have new bugs, new diseases all the time. So to say that we're going to do organic and no pesticide, no chemicals, I don't think it'll be feasible. Because who can develop a business and depend on a business with a great risk of a question mark in the front? I mean, it's not feasible. You got to have more things to reduce the risk. And so that's why pesticides, GMO, and all the technology comes into play, whether it's irrigation or whatever.